Duterte says, was the morality of right and wrong different from the morality of right and wrong now? Video time, 1 seconds. The morality of right and wrong is not depend with the time. Even into same immorality, there is a difference. Such immorality as being done when there is no law yet will differ. Immorality being done by innocent, then of who is not innocent, will differ. Immorality being done by the leaders, then of the ordinary citizen, will differ. Immorality of yesterday and of today or also means as being repeated by the same person or by the others will differ, as it means much accountable than of today or of being repeated. Although in generality, it's different to the way of living of such generations. Compare the Genesis 6 verse 5 and the time of Jesus, then the rightfulness and wickedness of today, as I've said about when there's no law yet and as when there's already a law. And as about rightfulness, think about what Jesus had said. These are those who did not see me, but they believes. And but most of all, it depends to oneself, or why or how it was committed. That is why there are sin, let sin, mortal sin, and unforgivable sin. Video time 15 seconds. World War I will not happen if there is no wars from such nation had occurred before. If you read the story of Ukraine, you will know who started the war in the Middle Ages and how the European was being battled by Russia or Soviet. Likely the Ukraine, whose independence from Russia is often on and off, as the European before has no unity yet. So World War arise because nations will support each other's friends nations or as even as an enemy before as because of a deal. Video time 22 seconds. As far as I know, Europe did not involve the Middle East. It is a world war, meaning alliance versus another alliance war, and deal for a deal. Some nations of Middle East belongs to Ottoman Empire, being ruled by the Islamic. It is themselves who sided the Central Powers against Allied forces during World War I. Video time 23 seconds. You must know the war between Middle East and European was started by the Islamic in the earliest of Middle Ages, as it is about conquering because of religion, so secondly about trade. Video time 24 seconds. As for you to know, land grabbing is different than colonizing, as some colonizing is for a cause, to share the trade and culture for a limit of time, and how to protect the nation from these land grabbers. While land grabbing, which was also a doing of which you are not assailing, is to own other nations, or as to steal such parts of the lands of other nations. The great land grabber during Middle Ages is the Russia. Russia is not a part of Europe. As I've said, the Europe at that time has no unity yet. They are on and off enemies and friends against each others. The land grabbers in Europe at Middle Ages is the Poland, and being defeated by Germany, who is a land grabber also second to Russia. Video time 33 seconds. If you are preparing for the World War I, then the Germany, Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria did not take the Arab as their army, as it is about the Ottoman Empire. As I've said, World War is alliance against another alliance, and whereas it is a deal for a deal. Video time 36 seconds. It was connected to a war or world war, so it is not a massacre, but killing a number of peoples because of grabbing other nations' lands or to intervene against other nations. It is what is indeed could be considered as massacre. To which countries you are referring for about if who is wrong, as the World War I is not just European nations, and the European that time has no unity yet, as that World War I occurred because of alliance against another alliance, or as a deal for a deal, why assaulting the whole Europe as not knowing that cause of the World War I, or as why Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was killed, that is called the World War I. Video time 47 seconds. The morality of from today much severe than of the earliest time, because that time only economic and political wars, and few leaders doing bad and mostly of innocence and of innocent, but no economic politics, corruption and drug wars, cybercrimes wars, fake news wars, etc. As many leaders was involved, government and religious leaders, and the morality of pride today is much greater than of the earliest time, because today they are a sheep from the middle of the wolves, survival of righteous from the middle of the wicked. Video time 55 seconds. No nation that will advise other nation if it has no relation to each others. And if you don't want to take advices, revoke them as you are leader with decorousness. Either the advice is acceptable or not, must not be reciprocated with slanderous word. Video time 1 minute and 29 seconds. Oh, any country could give advice to other country. It is not about interfering, it is about care. Unless if there is an insisted action in it, meaning active action that was not insisted is not absolutely interfering. It is a care, either as they know the reality in the nation they are advising or interfering or not. Video time 1 minute and 39 seconds. Oh, do you mean if someone cares, they have no right to see such words of advice as that blame the Philippines leaders and officials before you? Do you think these leaders and officials before you are in wrong of accepting helps from them, as the Filipinos are starving to death or in needs? Whoever does not want to be advised about what is to be given, then do not accept it. Or whoever does not want alone with advice, then don't take the deal. Philippines leaders or officials take it and boost their projects from that. Ironically, after that, they assailed the one from whom the help or the loan came from as because of advice. Who is indeed the idiot? The very fact it is the nature of anyone who is strong to help the weak, whether he was asked or not. And so, if it is the weak is to be guided or be supported till it was enough to stand, there is nothing wrong with it. And it is a nature that it depends to the one who nurtured the weak, if he will continue to guide the weak, whom he nurtured or not, as it always depends to his decision or the situation, which I mean the Philippines before is poor or as underdeveloped as the USA shares trade and technology that these Philippines leaders did not capitalize it, or as they are derelict to that, as the Filipino politicians' nature is will not do works or projects if without kickback, as it also means never care for the next generations. That is the reason as why the Philippines not improving, but God cares because the Philippines is a truly God believers, especially concerning Jesus. So he uses President Ferdinand A. Marcos as about the screwed wealth. Video time 1 minute and 46 seconds. Oh, see, for being helped or loaned and protected, then being considered as colonization. This is slanderous words being expressed to them. Video time 1 minute and 53 seconds. Such a disgrace. He calls his cabinet and officials just to narrate such words, which are unintellectual words or words that must not be spoken. Accusing the nations, as he says, that helped the Philippines, he accuses them of importing terrorism in their country just because he was advised about his campaign against illegal drugs. Could he prove his accusation about terrorism? These are indeed such immoral words. Video time 1 minute and 56 seconds. Such a serious assault and accusation. Is there any terrorism being done by USA or European? If for is terrorism, then why it is only the USA and the European that President Rodrigo Duterte is assaulting? As to where it is not just the European who does wars. Years after Muhammad dies, who battled Israel? Who battled the Middle East? Who battled the European in the early years of Middle Ages? Who really started the colonization or invasion during early years of Middle Ages? Is not it the religion of the Middle East and European before are Jews, as more of Christians? Is not it the Poland and Ukraine Subastans who invaded them, who stolen the parts of their lands? Is not it the Russia? Video time 2 minutes and 7 seconds. When did the USA or the European rob the oil of the Arabs? The Arab or the Middle East countries always banned the shipment of the oil to USA and Europe. Not at all time it is such nations' victory in war. A nation being defeated in war, for sure they will pay the price by being robbed as plunder according to God's will, like as Abraham gives 10% of his plunder to Melchizedek, the God himself at upon of man, as it is the law of war, even before Jesus. That was called a legal plunder. Video time 2 minutes and 38 seconds. What part of Middle East did the USA, France, and UK had colonized or divided? You mention it, but you never mention how the lands of their allies, the Israel, the Poland, the Ukraine, the Philippines, etc., grabbed their lands by their enemies. As far as I know, the USA involved in war to help other countries as not to colonize. except about Cuba and Philippines, or as not to grab other lands. What country did the USA had grabbed or grabbed the parts of their lands during World War I and World War II? All the USA colonized Cuba for a short time so as to share their trade and culture after liberating them from Spanish colony. Likewise to the Philippines, but never they grabbed lands as to own it. The fact, since the Middle Ages time and during World War I and II, it is Russia who had much colonized and grabbed lands. Video time 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Oh, is it too late for good? Is imperialism? True imperialism are those who grab other lands. And you forgot to mention your beloved prince, the one who grab our islands. Video time 3 minutes. The fact were indeed worse than those idiots you had mentioned. Were indeed those nations who grab the parts of our legitimate lands or islands. You terribly assault, slander, and accuse this nation, which from your mouth you said they help us and let us enormous money just because of what they think a caring advice. Video time 3 minutes and 26 seconds. You are angry to those who gives the Filipinos our works, but you are not angry to those who grabs our land and seas that makes Filipinos suffers. The Spaniard colonized Philippines for 333 years but developed the Philippines. Grabbing is different than colonization. Then, USA replaced Spaniards from 1898 to 1945, but they also developed our country and let the Filipinos live freely in their land as to its Filipino population goes big there. Video time 3 minutes and 29 seconds. So what you are saying that the Spain and USA stole our wealth? What wealth does the Philippines have if we are so poor that time? Did they mine our natural resources without pay? Did they did not pay the Filipinos their salary? When Japan attacked the Philippines, it is not because we are USA ally. The fact the cause of World War II is global recession and political instability, and we are not ally of the USA that time. We are a captive, as not as to be a slave, but to be protected and be nurtured. That even the Philippines that time, after being freed from Spaniards, making war with the USA, because the USA did not give the independence of the Philippines until the World War II was over. So how could it be said we were being battled by Japan because we are USA allies? Video time 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Being a nation leader, it is not good to slander other nations or their leaders or their citizens. Those who will be in a great trouble with that is the Philippines, mainly the citizenry itself. What do you think if he punishes you, he will be saved by whom you are getting closer or cling for?
Was the morality of right and wrong different from the morality of what is right and wrong? No? Remember, you Europeans, all by yourselves, by your lonesome selves, you have started the First World War. Dinamay ninyo ang Middle East because you were the great colonizers. You massacred, pareho kayo Europeans, and the Arabs that you took in as your armies. You killed, slaughtered each other. 15 million stupid Europeans died because of you. Bakit? Ang right or wrong ba noon? Hindi ba right or wrong pati ngayon? So bakit kami? Why don't you start scratching your head? And find out kung ano kayo, you will be excluded in the UN. Putang ina ninyo, gawin ninyo. Hindi man ako Espanyol, minsan dia. Paano sabihin sa Espanyol? You di puta, you go and go ahead. You are interfering in our affairs kasi mahirap lang kami. Magbigay kayo ng pera, then you start to orchestrate what things should be done and which should not happen in my country. You bullshit. We are past the colonization stage. Huwag ninyo akong, don't fuck with us. You have the problem there of terrorism. You imported it in your country. You built your riches. You were ahead in the industrial race of the planet Earth because you stole the greatest resource of the Arabs, and that was That's oil. Kaya nauna kayo and you paid a pittance for the raw materials. From where? From the Middle East. You colonized lahat. Then started to divide Middle East, United States, UK, France. Kayo yun eh. And that is why you're paying heavily now with terrorism. May you end up happy for what you have done. You're the ones, you're the last vestiges of imperialism in this part of the world. You idiots came to our lands, Indonesia, Malaysia. That's for Indonesia, Malaysia for the British and the Philippines for the Americans and Spaniards. And you have the gold to say to us, we will expel you. My language is horrible. No, that is part of our grammar here. Why? Because we are angry at you for colonizing and stealing our resources for so many hundreds of years. Gago pala kayo eh. Kayong mga... When you left my country after 400 years, you brought home the best of everything in this country. Tapos ganunin ninyo ako?